tube streaming some miniature painting goes. See if that gets any love. Alright, that's paused. As far as the actual stream, I pull up the chat. And then I have reference images here too. I'll put in both the chats. It's kind of like the reference image I'm going off of that. They're from in the game itself. So it looks like the belt itself is kind of like a silver of sorts, maybe a brass. So I'm just gonna build up from like a dark gray, build that up, and then I think I'm gonna do like a brownish wash over it, and then touch it back up, and then see where we are from there. There's not much lighting work going on with this, I'll be honest. So I'm not sure how NMM is gonna go, considering I don't really know NMM either. But it is what it is. We'll figure it out. I might glove up my left hand as well, depending on how I'm gonna hold it. I'll try holding it from down here, but as we get around the back side, I'm gonna be rubbing off paint. So I kind of want to hold it like this, but then I don't want to rub off the paint from her hair or anything like that, or the back side of her, as I tend to do when I'm holding things with my bare hand. Oh well, I'm gonna start with a deep gray. Happy Friday. Hope everyone had a good day. This brush is on its last legs. This might be the last go around for this, or these white brushes that I have. My Game Evolution light came in though finally, which is making this so much nicer lighting wise for me, like insanely nicer lighting wise. Before I had like my ring light, which is on just to light up my face a little bit. I had a light here, I had a light here, and they were like, in like, I don't know if I had my ceiling lights on or whatever, but and I don't fucking know. This is just like straight down on, like I got full coverage of lighting. It's just so much nicer in general. Even if I wasn't streaming, this is just so much nicer for me to actually like see what the fuck I'm painting properly. The little baubles in the middle of each of these little sections, these square sections, they're like an emerald green, maybe an aquamarine green, a bluish green. I really don't know what the proper term is, but those will be fun to paint, but I'm not gonna worry about those right now. We might get this night though. Is this thin enough? Should be. Of course, I set up the camera and I'm like, is this right where I'm gonna paint it at? I'm like, yeah, and then I go to a completely different spot. Just paint over that with the green, it's not a big deal. Gotta make sure I don't get any of the brown that I already painted. So I already have that looking pretty leathery for her girdle. Might go one lighter tone of brown up just to kind of punch up the highlighted bits, the raised bits a little bit more, but I'm kind of happy with how the leather looks for her girdle. I forgot to post to Instagram, but I don't know how long I'll be live, to be honest. I got started pretty late. I'm already kind of exhausted from the day. It was a busy day at work, which is really nice. Everyone's getting their Super Bowl snacks and stuff for their Super Bowl parties. But this setup already feels so much better than any other setup I had in terms of painting. So I do want to be doing a lot more painting streams for sure. Because my Instagram's pretty much only painting stuff now. I don't want to paint on when I'm live for gaming shit. I only want to post on there when I'm live for painting stuff, you know? Oh boy. Made some bomb ass chicken and potatoes tonight, by the way. Such a simple recipe I came up with by myself, but like it's so good. And I don't even call it a recipe because like I don't measure shit out. It's literally just potatoes that are roasted in the oven with a bunch of smoked paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, salt and pepper just tossed on it, and then they roast in the oven for a half hour. And then chicken with the same stuff all over it, but with also some Italian seasoning and stuff on it to go with that. And then some roasted broccoli that I threw in halfway through the potatoes being cooked with, surprise, the same seasonings, but with the broccoli I added Parmesan to it as well. And it's just such a good meal. It's good on its own. A little bit of a light ranch on it though, drizzled over top. Also really nice. Or if you can get some cheddar cheese to put over the potatoes when you're heating it up. Really good too. It's my meal prep, one of my meal prep meals that I do. A little bit too much on this brush. Also, it's okay. It's okay. The next thing I'm going to paint after I'm finished with this one though, and maybe we'll get it started before I finish this, who knows. One of my players in my D&D game, he's a paladin. And he took Fine Steed, and he like really wants to use this steed, so I give him some options of some models I have, and I have a really good like armored bear model that he wants to do, so or use, so I'm gonna do that. But like that one, I'm gonna have to work a way to figure out how to get a magnet inside the model. So whenever he wants like mounted in combat, I want to like I'm gonna glue a magnet to the bottom of his model, because how the base is on his, like it kind of divots up a little bit. So like there's a perfect space to glue a magnet to that, and then I want to get a magnet inside the model itself. So whenever he goes right in the middle of combat, I can just plop it on there and it'll, you know, stay, because it's the magnets will keep it together. Like we'll snap them together or whatever. But I have no clue how to do that, so I'll have to figure that out. It'll be a fun little project, and I know they'll appreciate it. They fucking loved the whole live action board, even though it was over Discord. They thought it was sick. They love seeing their characters painted and stuff. I'm only gonna do that for boss fights, but the rest we use Tailspire, but still. You know, it's gonna be once. We only play once a month, so it's gonna be like once every 3 or 4 months that they're gonna have a boss fight. At the pace that they play and shit, and you know how arcs roll through and stuff, you know. But I want it to be special. I want it to look epic. I gotta figure out what weapons I have, because a few of them are gonna have spiritual weapon as well, and I need to see which ones they want for spiritual weapon. I'm gonna get some translucent resin and print them out with that. It's the 10th anniversary for Witcher 3 this year, by the way. That is crazy to me. Feels like I just played it a few years ago. It's been 10 years since it released in May. That's fucking wild to me. Fucking wild. I have a Yennefer model that also has a bust to it from non figures as well. That's where this one's from. I think I bought the Geralt model, or I think I subscribed the month that Geralt was in. I kind of want to do the Geralt one as well. You know, those will all eventually come through, you know, with all the other things I want to fucking paint that are already printed. Mesmer's still in pieces. Every piece is printed for Mesmer, but he's still in pieces over on the other desk. Want to paint him too. Who wants to pay me like 50K a year just to sit home and paint? That's all I need for my basic expenses and for some spending money. I don't need much. I'm a simple man. Come on, I can stream full time. Spend 5 hours on painting, 5 hours on games. It'll be a win-win for everyone, but mainly me. It looks pretty great. It looks pretty great to me. Does anyone have fun Super Bowl plans? I think my plans are following through. Normally I watch it with a group of friends, but apparently Verizon's having like a big old like fan fest thing around the country. And Pittsburgh is having one, and it's going to be at Acrisure, but it's only for Verizon customers. And I'm not a Verizon customer, so I think they're going to that instead. Cause it was free tickets and it's free food, and they basically get to watch the game in the stadium. I'm like, that's really cool, but also shitty for me. I might just go to my parents and eat food there. Which what am I painting? I should probably put it on screen, huh? I'm painting a bust of Ciri from The Witcher 3. It's also in the title, but should probably put it on screen. Keep drifting away from the camera. More specifically, I'm painting her her belts, her metal belt that she has around her. Her decorative belt. Really don't know what exactly to call it. It's a belt. But how are you today, Kristen? I'm always surprised at how light this gray is, actually. No, you're good. I had her off camera. That's good. That's good to hear. Alright, this bit's gold right here, but up here is silver. This is stressful. I'm using too big of a brush for this. I'm using way too big of a brush to do this buckle, but fuck it, we're already here. I got like 2 little bits left on this one. I think I do the one up near her shoulder. We live life dangerously here. Actually, it's way too big. It's just too big for my comfort zone, but we got to get out of our comfort zone. It's way too thin. I need a little bit more paint. Better. There we go. Oh, this is like underneath her collar. This is scary. Nailed it. Got a little bit on the strap. Gotta whisk that up. Brilliant. can barely tell. Oh no, you can tell if I do this. Gotta make sure I don't drink from my paint cup and my actual cup. I've yet to drink from my paint cup. I'm not trying to start tonight, you know? It's gonna happen one of these times. But I'd rather not be right now. You know? Right now I'm just trying to get her metal belt done. I'll go through with one more coat of this gray and then probably hit it with a quick brown wash before I bump up the highlights of it. Because it, like, in the reference image I'm using, like, it looks like it's pretty dirty. So, like, I just want to dirty it up before I go any further with any sort of highlighting on it. Because where it's like brown and stuff on it, it's like in its crevasses, like deep in here, like underneath this like detail and stuff. I like this version of the song. It's a really good version of the song. With all the string instruments. Well, how about I went to print things on my printer the other day, and I hadn't used it since the start of the new year. Actually, since like right before Christmas, I hadn't really used it. We've had some cold weather since then. Even though I have a personalized heater for my printer or whatever, it still got pretty cold in my basement. My personalized printer, like there's like actual heater inside the printer, I should say. And but like the resin I had in there got real fucked up. There was like a thick layer just over top the whole thing. When I went to like lift it up, it like broke apart and became like sludgy and stuff inside the vat. So I ended up just completely getting rid of that resin and getting rid of the bottle that I had of like, it was not much left in that bottle. But it was just like, it wasn't enough to keep around either if that was good, if that was how it was in the bottles. Well, I didn't even look, I just pitched it. But it's a good thing I actually did that, because after I dumped it and then after I cleaned the vat out, I found out that there was like a small hole in the FEP film at the bottom of it. So like thankfully none of the resin that was in it leaked out onto my printer itself, but if I were to pour new resin in there, it would easily just pour out onto like through the vat and onto the printer itself and onto my LCD screen, and it would have ruined it. So it was a blessing in disguise that happened, but still really annoying process to do that. But I got new resin in yesterday and I ran my calibration tests. It's resin I had used before, but I hadn't done it in a while, and I didn't mark down what settings I used for it, so I kind of did it off of memory and hope and ran a calibration test, and it came out pretty damn near perfect. So I'm happy about that. I don't have to spend too much time doing tests. And I just ran its first print today while I was at work. It just got done right before stream, and I pulled them off the plate, and the prints are looking pretty good. They got clean. I ran them through the wash station before stream, and they're drying right now before I cure them. But we'll see how they look before I cure them and after I cure them. But they're looking pretty good. Details there. And yes, if you, well, what part of the hobby are you into, Kristen? let's put that. Let's start there. I got into 3D printing and just painting in general because of D&D. And I like the idea of physical models, physical stuff whenever doing battles and stuff like that. It's like, I love the idea of that. And that's why I got into it. And but painting, that's fair. It is a very expensive hobby in general. I mean, I've always had liked doing artistic things growing up, so this is fun to get into the painting side. But yeah, it's expensive. Paints are expensive. The barrier for entry into the hobby, I feel, is pretty high. Like, even if you're just getting we'll say a Space Marine and a basic set of paint and some paintbrushes, you're still looking at roughly $100 investment just for the bare minimum of stuff. And then if you want to keep going, what are you gonna do once that Space Marine's painted? You need another Space Marine or another thing to paint. And I'll be honest, I haven't looked up much prices for stuff that from the Warhammer side or even the D&D unpainted side. I really don't know much about the prices there because I just got straight into it through 3D printing. Oh my god. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. But I started straight with 3D printing because I wanted D&D stuff. So custom player characters and any monster I could want. I mean, this is many moons ago, and I've been off and on printing and painting since then, but it's probably 4 or 5 years ago. Actually, since before the pandemic. No. Yeah, since right before the pandemic, I think, is when I started. But I can't imagine how much money I would have how much more money I would have spent on stuff if I wasn't printing it. You know? The nice thing about consumer printers now is that they are pretty reasonable nowadays compared to what they were when 3D printing started coming into the consumer space. You know, they were pretty expensive when they first came out. There's still some insanely expensive ones out there, but they're more for businesses and stuff to print stuff for mass production and shit like that, and just parts for different things. But you know, my printer downstairs, it's got a fairly large bed to it. It's an Anycubic Photon Mono 6KS or Mono Photon Mono X 6KS. I can't remember the exact model name, but I think I got it for $250-ish. And it was it was an insane step up from my former printer, which is an Anycubic Photon Mono. And the release window for both was maybe 2 years, 2.5 years, and the step up in quality was insane. And then the stuff they have out there right now is just absolutely fucking mind-boggling. I'm waiting for the next generation of printers to come out. Probably grab one of those, but there's nothing really wrong with my printer itself. It prints pretty nice. Actually, it prints really nice. It prints insane detail. A lot of it comes down to the model itself, but like this was 3D printed. I can't zoom any farther, but I'll just get her closer. I'll focus. But this was 3D printed, and like, look at the texture on the shirt. That was printed like that. Look at the texture on the belts. That was printed as such. All the folds and creases. Like, it does come down to the model a little bit for sure, but like, this printer is probably like 2 years old now, 2.5 years old from when it released, and for that to get that kind of quality, I mean, it takes some work. It takes a learning process, but I mean, there's so many guides out there on like what are the proper settings for different types of resin and stuff that it's pretty easy to get into if you just do a little bit of research. But the barrier to entry for 3D printing, that's also kind of high because you have to buy the printer itself, which I would probably set aside $300 for that. Bottles of resin cost anywhere from $15 to $40 depending on what resin you're using. You don't really need the most insane resin out there to get good results, I'm gonna be honest. But that's just, you know, and resins can last, you know, it depends on what you're printing, but it can last, you could get a lot of good mileage out of it. And then you want like a good area to set up your 3D printer, a ventilated area, because the resin itself smells pretty bad. And then you want to use rubbing alcohol to clean your prints and all that stuff before you cure them. And the rubbing alcohol, just, you know, that's a strong odor. So you want a well ventilated area for that stuff. And yeah, it's just, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to get into 3D printing, but I always just warn them, like here's the checklist, or I pointed to a video if I can like have one on hand of like what you need before you get into 3D printing, because it's quite a bit. But once you have it set up and get it going, it's pretty nice. I need to grab a brown wash. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab my other grays too while I'm at it. Yeah, it's a pirate ship. I printed and painted that last year. Well, that was a multi-year project. But yeah, it's a pirate ship. I actually printed it twice. I printed it once on my Photon Mono, and by the time like I had it all printed and went around to it, some of the pieces had warped because I didn't know much. I didn't have the right settings for stuff and didn't cure it right and shit like that. So when I went to assemble it, a lot of the parts were warped and stuff. But then I had recently gotten my Photon Mono 6K. I got in the 6KS, and that had a much bigger build plate, so I was able to build plate, so I was able to print it in bigger pieces, which eliminated some of the error for that warping and stuff like that too. Didn't shake this at all. Like when I first printed it on the smaller printer, it was like 120 some pieces printed, which is insane. Which is absolutely insane. But with that, that's probably like 30 pieces, which is still a lot. But I'm counting like all of the cannons that go with it. Each mast is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each mast is like 7 pieces. That's including like the sails that are coming off them and stuff. But it was a really little passion project for me, and I got it done. And now, you know, with my D&D campaign that I'm running, there's a chance that they could actually go towards the ocean. It's gonna be up to them, and I'm really hoping they do, so I can bust that out actually for the campaign. So we'll see. What have you painted so far, Kristen? Yeah, it'd be really nice to bust it out for the actual game. So I'm doing a brown wash over this just to kind of dirty it up a little bit, tint it up a little bit, especially in those little crevasses. And then, because she's an adventurer, she gets out there. Her shit's not the cleanest. Her gear, that is. And we'll like touch it up from there. A wizard frog, a traveling trader hedgehog, 2 different. Hell yeah. Two baby dragons to paint today. Oh, I love dragons. One of the first things I got into printing initially with an FDM printer, which is like where the plastic melts down and it comes out the little nozzle and it goes layer by layer from the bottom up or whatever. And one of the first things I printed was a dragon, and I painted that up. And you know, not the best work, but it's still sitting. It's underneath the. Oh, her hair fell off. I got so scared for a second. That's fine. Or if you can tell, you probably can't, but it's like underneath the pirate ship and the shelf underneath it. He's stuck down there in there a little bit. Definitely can't tell. There's definitely not enough light back there for that. But I love dragons in general, so yeah, her hair came off. There's a little hole there for her bangs. I didn't glue the bangs on yet because I still gotta get to her eyes and shit. I would have been a fool to to glue her bangs on. I've done that before in the past, and that's a fun little tip if you haven't figured it out yet, haven't experienced that yet. If you have pieces you can glue on, but you need to get to the places behind where you glue shit on, just wait to glue it on till you get to where you need to. You want to see that outline of the ship? Yeah. Where's my phone at? Let me see if turning these lights on will help. This camera here is not, this is just a standard like Logitech C920, so it's not the best camera. I got my good camera. Depending at the model, obviously. No, that doesn't help at all. Let me see. And do this while that wash dries on the model. Let me pull up pics of the pirate ship itself. All right, what can I do here? This is not what I want. This is also not what I want. What's the other display? There we go. Display capture. Behind the webcam. Alright, so this is from my Instagram. This is the pirate ship here. So I got the model from a 3D modeler called Loot Studios. This is called the Lady Harpy. This is what the pirate ship's called. But you know, it's not the perfect print. Like there are some gaps here where like it doesn't really meet up properly, but these pieces are supposed to come off during the, if it's being used for D&D anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. What's up, Jonesy? How you doing, bud? Thank you. So yeah, this project here, like I said, I printed it twice. It was over the course of like 2 years. Painting it itself probably took me a month or so of solid dedication to actually go through and paint it, but I didn't like, there wasn't much detail work to the ship itself. All I did really was I primed it in brown, like a really dark brown. I primed it, and then I just dry brushed with a lighter brown all around the ship. Where I did paint, like all the metal bits, I did paint that with like a silver paint, and then I hit it with a black wash to make it look a little worn down. Or like up here, I like used like a brass wash, and then I had it. I used a brass whatchamacallit paint, and then I washed it down. But really, like the techniques I used weren't that crazy. It was just a lot of stuff to paint. That's really and truly what it was. That's why it took so long. But still, it was a big undertaking. And then what else I have? This is a pyramid head I painted for a friend who still hasn't like asked to come get it. So the fucking Instagram cut it off though. But like this was a really fun idea, like trying to figure out how to get this rust effect for this pyramid head. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I need to take better pictures of it to cut off like a fucking half of its head. walrus dude I painted. I really only focus on his face here. And getting the blends really good on his face, but the rest I kind of neglected, and it's all like one note. I could go back through and touch this guy up, but happy with how the water came out. I give like a bloody effect to the fish that he stabbed. So there's that. How you doing today, Jonesy? Yeah. This is some of the stuff I need to go through and like actually upload a lot of my stuff. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's all about sticking to it. I tend to get into it and then I fall away for like a month or 2 or 6, and I come back. I have to rehone my skills again, and it's like back and forth, back and forth. But just stick with it, you know. I just need to stick with it. All right, now we can see like her belt is kind of dirtied up now, a little bit muter now in the tone. So I'm gonna go through and just like kind of hit the raised areas with this gray now. Parchment paper starting to fucking curl up in this wet palette, because I didn't like, usually if I'm gonna set up my wet palette for like how I use this with parchment paper instead of like actual like wet palette paper, I need to like get the parchment paper in, wet it down, and then like close the lid and let it sit for 6 hours or something like that. But I forgot to do that before I went to work, so it's not properly set up how I want it to, because it's starting to dry out already. The parchment paper, but it's okay. That's why I use parchment paper, because it doesn't cost much. There we go. So I'm trying not to hit like the base area. Just these raised areas and shit. As I say that. Frick. I have to bust out the fancy glasses for this. Or, you know, a smaller brush. I have to go down a brush size. Oh, with my light that it came in, they gave me a size 2 Kolinsky Sable brush. It was just chilling in the box when I opened up my lamp. That was really nice of them to do that. I love this band so much. I want to see them live. I haven't seen them come through Pittsburgh, which makes me upset. I wanna see them live. They seem like a really good live show. Back to what I was saying about 3D printing, Kristen. I recommend it. It's a fun hobby to get into. It's a big upfront cost. It's gotten easier to get into over the years, but also it's one of those things where like you pay the price up front, but then being able to kind of print almost anything you want is really nice. And it'll pay for itself, you know, pretty quickly, because you'll always have stuff to paint. In fact, you'll probably have too much stuff to paint, like me. I have drawers upon drawers of unpainted stuff that I've printed. But the you know, it's stuff I didn't pay full price for at from a like a Games Workshop or a WizKids Minis or anything like that. Yeah, I'm liking how this is looking. Well, I'm losing which one I'm working on last, because the touches are so subtle. I'm not playing on screen anymore. I'm really bad at that. I'll get better at it, I swear. Ooh, I started watching a new show this week. That's really fucking good. It's called Paradise. It's on Hulu. It's really good. I can't talk more about it because it would be super spoilery, but It's got a solid cast and crew, and I think it's a solid little drama. That if you're looking for a new show, it's like 4 episodes in, maybe 5 episodes in, and it's really good. Also, if you're looking for a medical show, medical drama, The Pit on HBO Max is really, really, really good. Takes place in a Pittsburgh hospital. And on last night's episode, spoiler alert, they get Permane Brothers for lunch, and you know, it's true to Pittsburgh in that sense. They got Permane Brothers, so shout out to the showrunners and writers for actually like paying attention to the stuff. There was a point in the show where I had to go back through and listen to see if like what's happening actually makes sense, like in terms of places around Pittsburgh. But with everything else they've gotten right about the Pittsburgh area, I'd imagine they got it right. Yeah, really good show. What kind of paints are you using, Kristen? Fuck. Model coloring some more paints. Nice. I've only ever really used Army Paint or War Paints, but I do want to try some other brands. My local like hobby store or whatever, they pretty much always have Army Painter stuff in stock. That's why I started using them. Whereas the other stuff they just have a hard time getting, so. I'm sorry, but your time is up. Jesus Christ, what is this song? What the fuck was that? It's looking pretty good. My hand hurts though. Holding like that. Need to stretch these muscles again for gripping models and shit. Yeah, I do. Are you using the Fanatic line? That's what I have. I have the full Fanatic line. There's the camera. What I like about the Fanatic line is this. The triad system. Where like, but like, with what I have all 6 colors in the line here. So like I can kind of tell, you know, what is lowest and how to build up from there. And like some of the more professional painters think it's a hindrance and stuff like that, but fuck, I mainly paint for like tabletop quality. I don't really paint to be a professional painter, you know what I mean? Like for these busts and stuff that are going to be on display in my house, like I'll take a little bit more time and shit, but in general I only really care about getting my shit to tabletop quality, honestly and truly. If I can get it there, if it looks good from eye to table, or in my case for my D&D game, I played my D&D game with a bunch of my WoW guildies, so for me it's like, how does it look through the camera to them? So it's like camera to tabletop, and how is it going to transition through the camera to them on Discord, you know what I mean? So that's all I truly care about personally. But I get where they're coming from in terms of it being a bit of a hindrance in learning color theory and shit like that, but you know, this isn't my job, this is my hobby. I'm gonna have fun with my hobby how I want. It's like that's like when people were shitting on others who are using speed paints, like let them use speed paints. I personally don't like speed paints. I've tried using them, or contrast paints or whatever. You know, I have the Armor Piercer speed paints 2.0, and I can't get results with them, but people can and they enjoy using them. So like, I don't understand the people that shit on those people, you know? It makes no sense to me. Let them have fun. Let them enjoy the hobby all they want. Alright. I've been live for an hour already? Gosh, it feels like it's been so long. Probably not being live that much longer, I'll be honest. I am kind of beat. It was a long day at work. It's gonna be a long day at work tomorrow. But I do plan to be back tomorrow night, potentially. But let's get these highlights laid down. Let's start these highlights on this belt. I'm going under a smaller brush though. I know what that alert means, but what happened? I don't have thanks for the follow, Kristen. I don't have the alerts on this scene apparently. Oh, I do. They're just covered by everything. They're back on top. There's like something on the edge of my paintbrush here. Thanks for the follow though, Kristen. I appreciate it. I wish this thing autofocused, but it doesn't. Get on camera, Tim, when you're painting. Gosh. Ooh, it's starting to pop now. It's starting to pop. Washes are nice to use. I use them more for tinting nowadays rather than like getting shadows placed, if that makes sense. Like I'll use it like I did with the belt here, like to dirty up the belt a little bit rather than having it go in like the recesses to build up that shadow or whatever. That just shows like the versatility of washes, which is nice. Yeah, it's really good for that type of situation where, you know, a lot of people like the way they're advertised, like, yeah, like throw down this wash and have it go in the recesses and look, make the recesses look darker and build up those shadows, which is a really good use for them. Like I like using them for just like making stuff look more worn, more used. They're really good for that as well. That's my preferred use for them. I prefer building up shadows naturally now, but when I first started, I did use it. I was bad though when I first started. Like I would paint. I would just base coat a model, and then I would slap the wash all over the model, and then I would dry brush with like white, and it didn't work. It didn't look so good. It didn't look so good back then. But you know, it's a learning process. Yeah, hey, asking questions is, if you got a source to ask questions about things, for sure. It's always good to ask. That looks sloppy. Oh well. I'm doing it off the screen again. And I apologize for that. I'll just move my head closer. It's kind of one of those things where like I need to like see a little bit more what I'm doing. When I was doing my Melina model from Elden Ring, I had someone in chat, Gentry Miniatures was his name. I was asking him questions about like what would work best as I was working on shit, and it was really helpful. Like when I was putting up the flames that were coming off her and stuff. I just had to properly do the OSL of like the flames on her clothes and shit. It was really nice to have that resource as I was doing it live. Alright, last one. I think I'm gonna call it after this one. Much shorter stream than I normally do, but my tummy's a rumbling. Fish tank problems. You got fish? What kind of fishies you got? Guppies, that's fun. We tried raising fish a few times growing up. It never worked out. Hindsight, we didn't have the right stuff for it, you know. Obviously, you know, every kid wins a goldfish at the fair and tries to take care of that, but like there's a few times we tried seriously, but we didn't have the right tank setups or anything like that, and it just didn't work out. But it's what it is. All right, I think it's gonna be it for tonight. Like I said, my tummy's a rumbling and I'm exhausted from work already. I should be back tomorrow though. We'll work a little bit more on the silver of the belt. Probably punch up one more set of highlights on it, and then work on the little gem bits that go around it, little bluish green gem bits. And we'll see where we go from there. Depends on what time I start tomorrow, really. I'm an old man. I'm an old man. I get up early for work. But I had a meal prep tonight and other various chores I get taken care of, so I had a late start, but you know, gotta take care of real life shit first before you do your fun stuff. Well, thanks for hanging out for a little bit tonight, guys. I appreciate it. Kristen, welcome to the stream, and I appreciate you hanging out. I do the paintings. Also, I'll be doing gamings again next week. We just got done playing Spider-Man 2 yesterday. And Avowed comes out next week, so we'll be playing that. But I'm gonna mix in painting and gaming for sure. But have a good night, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you. I should be back tomorrow with more. We'll work on her belt. We'll work on her other belt. I gotta do her eyes and her makeup at some point. That'll probably be the last thing I do. Because I'm terrified of that. Have a good night, though. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. Appreciate you all. Bye-bye.